Stability. CalmWaters. Summary. Ida and Rain try to assemble a bed for Luz. It's harder than it sounds. Notes. Thank you to my mother for giving me inspiration for this while she struggled to assemble the cages for my rats and I stood by uselessly. Work text. Aw, no, that isn't right. I think you're supposed to flip it, Ida. Why? It looks the same no matter where you put it. Yes, but it's not fitting right, see? It's supposed to fit into that hole there, so use the other side. Ida let out a huff of frustration as she flipped the long piece of wood in her hands. Her partner trying to screw the end of it to the rest of the bed frame they had built together over the span of 3 hours, now? Ida looked out the window. The sun was setting. Rain's face was set with a grimace of concentration as they attempted to put the screw between their fingers into the proper place. It's still not working, Ida said. She flopped her head back, letting the wood fall to the ground with a loud clatter. She was a personal believer in the philosophy, if at first you don't succeed, try 2 more times and then give up forever. Okay. Pass me the instructions, Rain motioned to the small pamphlet beside Ida's head. Oh, so that's what those are. We've been doing this for 3 hours, 36 minutes and 17 seconds. And you haven't even looked at the instructions? Rain tilted their head as Ida gave them a fond look and crossed her arm behind her own head. What? Nothing, Rainstorm. You've gotten a whole lot bouger over the years, you know that? She sat up and poked Rain's side, met with a little breath of laughter from her partner. She picked up the instruction pamphlet and tossed it over, Rain giving her a pointed look until she walked over to them and gave the instructions a brief glance, her chin on their head. That wasn't even the right piece, Rain motioned to the piece of wood from before. See, they're labeled A to L, that was piece F, we need piece E. But they all look the same. Ida threw herself back against the ground, letting out a very long groan. She'd better appreciate this bed. She will, Rain said with a smile, tucking her back up and digging through the pieces that had yet to be assembled, searching for piece E. Now that Luz's place in the demon realm had finally been finalized, and she was permitted to go back and forth between realms when Camila gave her permission, Ida had decided that it was time to make her feel like a permanent member of the family. Because, well, she was. She had originally been planning to have the kid dual hoodie for honor or something, but Rain had suggested giving her an actual bed. Rather than that floor thing she was still sleeping in. This looks like Rain held up another piece of wood that was, in Ida's eyes, completely identical to the one they had before. Why this would make a difference was beyond her. Sure, Ida sat up again and held it steady for Rain while they attempted the screw again. If there was anything good about this situation, it was that look Rain got when they were trying to concentrate. Their crinkled, focused eyes, with their tongue occasionally sticking out. The screw's catching, I know it can work, I just can't dash. They let out a grumble of frustration, Ida grabbing one of their hands and putting it against the board of wood. Here, switch, she said, taking the screw between her fingers as Rain held the wood in place. She twisted it in on her first try. That is. Rain let go of the wood, completely unfair. Ida stuck out her tongue. Rain knocked into her side seconds later, and suddenly it was like they were kids again, tumbling around on the ground together while Lilith rolled her eyes from a distance. Ida had been physically stronger and larger since they were children, but she had always let them win. That hadn't changed. Hey, Ida, I dashed. King poked his head in, took one look at the scene, and walked off. King, wait, Ida rolled to the side and let Rain steady themselves, King's voice coming from farther down the hall. I don't want to know. Not what it looked like, buddy. We're putting together the bed we got for Luz before she comes here tomorrow. Or at least, we're trying to. Want to give us a hand? Ida asked. After a few seconds, there was the sound of little feet scampering in the direction, King walking in and taking Ida's place holding things up. Rain put things into place and Ida handled anything that required brute force. I think. Rain glanced down at the instructions, then back at the bed frame. I think we're almost finished. Yes. They lifted up one of the last pieces and crouched down, eyeing the area it was supposed to go. King held it up while they reached for another screw. They frowned as they tried to attach it. It's not lining up. What did you mean it's not here? Ida grabbed it, trying to force it into position. It wouldn't budge. It was at least 2 inches out of alignment. What the dash? She stopped herself from saying a few choice words upon remembering King was in the room. Her son currently perched on the edge of the bed frame. Stop trying to force it. Hang on. Rain's hand moved to rest on her shoulder, their eyes scanning over what they had done so far. Gradually, their face fell. Oh. These 2 pieces are flipped. They motioned to 2 pieces they had put together near the beginning. In order to properly fix them, they'd have to take everything apart. Ida opened the window and screamed out of it. Unfortunately, this caught the attention of Hootie from below, and she quickly closed it before she could hear a word from him. We already spent so long putting it together, will we even be able to have it done by the time Luz comes tomorrow? I want Camila to know that her daughter at least has a bed when she comes over, after everything that kid's been through because of me. She paused. Rain and King were staring at her now, with matching raised brows that were honestly kind of unsettling. Okay, Rain said slowly, come help me take out the screw. Ida walked over, the brief panic on her face effectively masked within seconds. She tried to give them a reassuring grin as she yanked the screw out with a little bit more force than was necessary. Camila has seen the whole house, hasn't she? Rain asked. They wouldn't know. They fled the premises whenever anyone who was somewhat of a stranger showed up. It was both amusing and somewhat concerning. Yeah, Ida said, taking a deep breath. Why? That means she approves. Or, maybe approves isn't the right word, but she feels safe enough to let Luz spend half of her time here, with us, in this house. Bed or no bed isn't going to change that. Right? Ida helped Rain take out another screw, watching them separate the wood and examine the instructions again. Sometimes I don't know how you and Luz aren't related, by the way, King said. You know it's not your fault everything happened. It's Bellows's fault. Luz is Luz. She'll always try to do what she thinks is right, no matter what anyone says to warn her. Ida scooped him up in response, holding him close. It was a bit more difficult to lift him up now, as she only had one arm, but they still made it work. After everything that had happened, the feeling of his little chest rising and falling against hers was one of the best feelings in the world. All right. Let's get this right this time. Rain laid on their stomach and began reassembling the bed, Ida crouching down to help them. After an hour or so, Ida looked out the window. You two go get something to eat, it's late. I ate before we started, she said. Rain let King scurry up their shoulder and kissed Ida's cheek before going downstairs with him. They came back upstairs after 20 minutes, King's eyes drooping now that his stomach was full. Rain left once again to put him to bed. The 3 of them had their schedules down pretty well, now. Rain, who had blended very smoothly with the rest of the family, was always up and gone before anyone else, for the sake of their demanding job as a council person. Trying to rebuild what Bellows had destroyed. They were always home around the same time as everyone else, though, and they spent time with both Ida and the kids. Ida was dabbling in the education system, to the dismay of everyone else in the education system. King tagged along with her to wherever she was working. And Luz had the strangest schedule of all, going back and forth between realms and trying to attend human high school, which, from what Ida had heard, wasn't the best. She set down the piece of wood in her hands, taking a deep breath. Things were good. Not only good, but stable. It was hard to believe it, sometimes. She looked at the half-finished bed in front of her. She wanted Luz to feel fully secure too. Hey, Rain's hand gently stroked through her hair, Ida jumping slightly. Since when were you so sneaky? She stopped herself before she could speak further. She knew why they had gotten so good at walking around without making a sound. It had been a necessity for their previous line of work. Is King asleep? Mayjem passed out the second I put him down. Rain helped her with the bed frame. This really shouldn't take this long. We just suck, Ida said. Next time, we're paying someone. Agreed. They continued working in silence. Rain was one of the only people Ida was comfortable being with when things were quiet. She couldn't help but cheer as Rain slid the last piece into place. We'll add blankets in the morning, they said, laying down on the floor. Ida laid down beside them. They reached out a hand to rest against their cheek, their eyes closing. Both of them had trouble sleeping after everything. But it was always easier when they were together, touching each other. Too exhausted to scoop Rain up and move, Ida closed her eyes and drifted off to sleep herself. Luz! Luz is here! King spotted Luz through the window before Ida the next afternoon, jumping down from his chair and running up to the door. Ida grinned and joined him at the door, opening it for Luz with a quiet, "Hey, kid." "Hi." Luz spun King around, then threw her arms around Ida. Not too long ago, Ida would have been somewhat disgusted with the open displays of affection. Now she relished in them when it came to this particular kid. She didn't mention the bed as Luz threw her things beside the couch instead of going up to her room, wanting to keep it a surprise. Luz liked those. She still had yet to mention it when Rain came through the front door 3 hours later, her partner greeting Luz with an enthusiastic smile despite the shadows under their eyes. Ida almost forgot about it completely until she heard a high-pitched scream of delight from upstairs after the kids headed up to get ready for bed. "Oh," Rain said, pressing their ears to their head, "I'll never get used to that noise." Ida put a hand on their shoulder and went upstairs, Rain following. "I didn't know that you who Luz turned around, bouncing on her toes. The bed specifically was Rain's idea," Ida said. "We all put it together." Luz let out a quieter happy shriek, pulling both of them into a hug before they could say anything. "I love you guys," Luz said, motioning for King to come join them. He rolled his eyes, but scampered over, claiming his sister's arms for himself once she had separated from Ida and Rain. Ida smiled and pressed Rain's hand. "We love you too, kid."